So in this video, we're going to tackle a bunch of stuff. We're going to learn about loading in everything, loading in icons, loading in images for sprites, creating sprites, creating text, loading in music and sound files, and then actually drawing those things to the screen. And actually, they're pretty much all related. So it's not too bad. So we're going to start with a simple thing, creating a texture and then loading that texture onto a sprite we created and then drawing that sprite to the screen. So here's how that works. First of all, you're probably going to want a sprite. So we can go to, let's say, the internet, and we could say I want a lion.jpg. I don't know if it's a JPEG or not right here, but let's go save as. And we're just going to take this image and we're going to drag it into our resources. And we can just click copy if needed and add to targets, which is our build product. Finish. And so now we've added our lion.jpg. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a texture. And this is just like declaring a variable like a float or an int or a boolean. So it's called an SF texture, and we're naming our variable texture. Let's try and name it texture lion. And then we have our if statement that just detects if we did in fact successfully load in that specific image. So we have if does not equal texture lion, and so you need to take your texture and the exact name needs to go right here for the texture. We're going to load from file, and here's something that you could screw up. You need the resource path, and we're with this template with Xcode, it automatically includes the resource path, which sort of maps out where to find our picture under resources. And so we just have two documents right here that are supporting that right there. So if you figure out why can't I get my image loading properly, I keep getting a failure, it's probably because you missed this resource path plus right here. So you need the resource path, and then we go plus, and then we type in our image. So we can type lion.jpg, and then this is just if it fails, then it didn't work. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a sprite, and it's just like creating a texture. So we have SF Sprite, and we're naming our sprite. We can call it Sprite Lion. And then here's where we're actually putting the texture onto the sprite. So we type texture lion. And so now we've created our texture. We've loaded the image onto our texture. And then we've created a sprite and loaded the texture onto the sprite. So this is all in the main before our game loop is where we actually do this. Or if you had a separate file that was a class, you could also you could do the same thing right here and then actually load in the texture onto your sprite when you're declaring your objects from your class. Hopefully that didn't confuse you too much. Hope people know what they're talking about somewhat about C++. So we got our sprite now, right? So let's ignore all the other crap, and we're going to go into our game loop. And we're just going to delete that stuff from the previous lesson. And so what we're going to do is we're going to draw our sprite, and this has to be after window.clear, because if you do this before window.clear, you're not going to see anything on the screen. And it needs to be before window.display, because window.display is updating what we get to see. So we're going to draw the sprite line by going window.draw, and then we have brackets, and we just type sprite lion. And that's it. So now we're clearing the window, we're drawing the sprite line, and we're pretty much updating the screen. So now we can go play. And now we get to see our lion. Oh my God, it's awesome. Okay, so it's the same thing for loading all of the other things. So what we do for our icon, which is our little thing down here, is we go SF image icon, and then it's the same thing, and we load our little icon PNG, and then we window.set icon, and then we do all that crap right here. And so basically we're taking the icon size, we're using that for the dimensions, and then it's just being set right here. So now our icon is updated. We could have a different icon, but we would have to change the file that we're getting from our resources right here. How about if we wanted to create a specific font type and a text that uses the font? We use SF font, and we get to name the variable. And then it's the same thing right here, but we're using a .ttf, which is a font style. We're then declaring SF text, and we're naming it text, and we are setting the string. So in this case, it says hello SFML. We could say Zabu Mafu. And then we're loading our font that we just created right here, which is a sensation type, and we're setting the size right here at 50, or we could do 25. And then we'll get into accessing the different parameters of like sprites and recs and stuff like that later. But this is text dot set color, and then we're setting the color equal to black. We could also do text dot set character size, and we could change it to 50 again, even though we declared it right here. But we could just do it after too. So we could go text dot, and we have all of these different options that we could do. We could even set the position. So we can make the position at x equals 300, y equals 300. So it goes boom, boom over from the window. So it's the same thing with the sprite. So let's just run this to show that we did in fact change the text. Except, what did we forget? Oh yeah, we just created the text. We didn't actually draw it onto the screen. So go into your game loop, and we're going to draw the text, and we're going to go window.draw and then text, because that's what we named it. So now an important thing here is that we're using the order of drawing operations. So we drew our lion first because it started here and moved down. We drew the lion on the screen. Okay, we're good. And then the next thing we draw is the text. So the text goes on top of the lion. But if we drew the text before the lion and the lion was in the same position, we wouldn't see the text. We would only see the lion. So you need to be very diligent about this, about the order in which you're drawing things. So now we should be able to see the text at the position 300, 300 that says Zabumafu. And it's true, Zabumafu. So we could easily change it so that we wanted a color white. And we could just instantly see the result. There we go. So let's say that we wanted to move our image to a different location. We could just access it by going sprite lion dot set position, and then we can type in, oh, let's say we want it at 500 by 500. So 500 over, 500 down. So now it's loaded from 500, 500 is right here. So it starts at the top left. That's how it's loaded in. It's not loaded from the center of the image. The position is loaded from the top left. And it's the same with fonts as well. So that's pretty much how that works. What if we wanted to combine moving with our sprite? Well, that would be kind of interesting, wouldn't it? Then we could move the sprite if we press a key. So let's go back to SFML, and we're going to go to Learn, Tutorials. And just like in the previous video, we learned how to use our keyboard input. So now we're going to paste that here, and we're going to go Sprite lion dot move. And this is every single frame that this is highlighted, it's going to move it from its current position. So let's say we wanted to move it in the positive X direction. We just want to move it over 1 in X and 0 in Y. So now when we press, let's say, right, because that makes sense, then it's going to move our sprite over to the right. Okay. Oh, look, it's moving. Awesome. And we could also do the same thing for our text. So we could go text.move, and we can make the text go down to the right. Oh, cool. So in a future video, I'm going to show you how to get a sprite from a sprite sheet, and you're going to be able to move it in all directions, and you're going to be able to load the corresponding section of the sprite for which direction it's facing. So we have a sprite sheet. It has all of the different, he's walking sideways, he's going up, down, and to the other side. And so we're going to load it in. Let's say when you're going right, it's going to load in the section of the sprite sheet that shows the character walking right. And then we're going left, it's going to show it going left. And even better, we're going to make it so it cycles through an animation when we're going right, and it shows us walking. So that's going to be pretty cool. And I think that might be the next lesson. So thumbs up this video if you thought it was okay, and see you soon.